Welcome everyone. As Rio said, hopefully we're all strapped in and ready to go. Should take us about 45 to 50 minutes to get through today's session. And it's going to be around FortiSwitch, which is Fortinet's secure, simple, scalable Ethernet solution that ties into their security fabric. So today's agenda, we'll quickly do a little introduction to Wavelink in case any of you guys haven't dealt with us in the past or have dealt with us a little bit. We'll go through then the major features of the FortiSwitch and sort of what the current landscape looks like. We'll then dive into what's new in FortiOS 7.2 for switching features. We'll only go into maybe the top 5. There's a couple in there they're quite interesting. We'll then break through into the different management solutions that exist for the FortiSwitch. Then we'll go through and touch on a high level what the current range is. And then we'll end the session with a quick Q&A if anyone has any questions and a little bit of where to find some further information and what certifications exist. So before we jump in, just want to take a couple minutes to introduce Wavelink in case, like I said, you haven't really dealt with this much in the past. We were established in 1998 with a key focus of growing our strategic vendors and our partners' presence. And we're doing this by building capability and the depth of knowledge and assisting to help aggregate solutions and provide specialized product knowledge and product intimacy. Wavelink was introduced to Fortinet as we were previously a Maru Networks distributor since 2008. Since then, Fortinet's acquired Maru as a way to help bolster up their wireless solution, and Wavelink has been working hard alongside Fortinet to help grow and nurture their solutions into the market. We are a 100% Australian owned company, and we have a sort of company culture that's quite responsive, and it makes it easy to do business with us. We sort of have this real can-do attitude. And we have many other benefits, including a professional services program, which includes staging, rollout, and installation services, and exclusive incentive programs that we run on a regular basis. And if you wanted some more information around what those services are and what the incentive programs are, please just reach out to us, either to our general marketing or sales lines, or you can reach out directly to your account managers. So let's have a look at what some of the challenges are for the Ethernet LAN edge. And the access layer of modern networks is growing, and with the number of devices sort of tipped to grow exponentially for the next 10 years. And this is due to the influx of IoT, BYOD devices, and as we are becoming more and more reliant on internet services and interconnectivity of these devices. At the same time, threats are becoming more complex as hackers and malware are now focusing on targeting end devices. And this is done to help get past that network edge security, which typically previously was the attack vector that attackers were choosing. And managing the copious amounts of equipment that even a modernized organization has becomes quite overwhelming, and it causes a lot of undue stress on IT staff and a lot of complexity when it comes time to reevaluate and redesign the network. And often the way IT admins approach network technology refreshes are in silos. And this approach creates a collection of products, licenses, and management consoles rather than a solution that's coherent. And this leads to many IT leaders to look to consolidate down the line after they've actually introduced all these different siloed products, which is never good. You don't want to introduce a solution and then, in a year's time down the line, have to reevaluate it and then go through and look at trying to consolidate it. Ideally, you want to introduce the product that you put in there and it continues to grow with you for the next 5, 6, 7 years. The second trend is the explosion of devices on the network driven by IoT and the subsequent need for visibility. And as part of this, there's a real need for enabling secure onboarding. Lastly, security is now at the top of most business leaders' minds and is now seen as a business problem rather than a technical problem. So at most levels within a business, there's an understanding that security is now a key factor for a business. Almost one half of IT decision makers are worried about these challenges of securing the explosion of devices. And again, that's sort of part of IoTs bringing that into our networks. And they now must balance requirements for strong security with the flexibility to provide access to almost any type of device onto the network without being in line for that process. And the challenge today is how to truly secure this infrastructure, no matter the number of devices, and the ability to feel confident that the security can react without an IT team's intervention. And this could be for zero-day threats or already known threats. And the reliance on standalone point products or even best in breed products is no longer a viable methodology for an IT team, as it's no longer practical to manage the expanding number of management interfaces for all of these technology solutions that they require. So one of Fortinet's key advantages to their product line and their wide LAN solution is the ability to have integration into the Fortinet security fabric. And this integration provides visibility and protection into the entire network attack surface. And it also provides solution integration to reduce that management complexity and the ability to share threat intelligence across the whole of the network solution. Now, another benefit is it also provides automation for fast and efficient operations, providing the ability to do self-healing networks, driven by FortiOS's AI engine. So the FortiGate with built-in switch controller allows for the best next-gen firewall to provide secure switching to an organization with Fortinet's secure LAN edge product range. And this provides the benefits such as single pane of glass for management, reduced CapEx and OpEx, and centralized network control. It also significantly reduces the amount of time required to deploy a network to new locations, as you can predefine all of the configuration for each component ahead of deployment. So when you're deploying the solution, you can spend more time verifying and less time configuring multiple silo solutions. And the combination of all this drives a much improved experience for both yourself and your customers. And how this is done is a key enabling technology for this is FortiLink. And this is what enables Fortinet's unique capability at their LAN edge. The FortiLink protocol enables the FortiGate to be able to manage Fortinet's network access layer. So these would be the FortiSwitches. And FortiLink drives the simplicity and the automated provisioning of the access layer and the visibility, because everything is centered around the FortiGate and everything is actually tied into the FortiGate. So that means when you're doing things like troubleshooting and management, you're actually doing it from the FortiGate instead of directly to the FortiSwitch. And it provides for a flexible architecture that scales as your needs change. And it enables the FortiGate to be able to offer a high level of security to the ports on the FortiSwitch, where you can confidently create global security policies, which are enforced by an architecture centered around the FortiGate and FortiOS, which is a proven highly security platform. And there are no additional licensing required for you to be able to utilize the FortiLink feature to manage your network access layer. There's no nasty AP management license or switch licenses, and they do not need requiring every year or so. You can think of it almost as a part of your investment into FortiGate and having FortiSwitches is an investment into part of the wider SD branch solution that Fortinet provides. And now the combination of this sort of allows Fortinet's solution to have a lower TCO than their competition. And it opens up the ability for more customers to be able to do things like automation and integration of products to have a heightened security. Now, so what's the real, high-level business values for you guys? So when you get asked by your customers, the three main ones are convergence of network and security, simplified operations, and the TCO benefits. So convergence breaks down silo, centralized data from the users and the network that can be used by AI and ML. And this is done so you can improve the security and performance of your network and allow you to create a more secure and resilient network to help drive the business and offer superior user experience, and also to allow for much faster rate of expansion. The convergence also simplifies operations for your network administrators, reducing the time required to implement and manage. All this is while lowering or while offering a lower TCO by bucking the trend of having licensing for almost everything. So with Security Fabric, items are tied together and can actively communicate and leverage information throughout all of the Security Fabric. And this is sort of one of the key benefits we're talking about before around the Security Fabric approach. One of the things that you can do around this is automation. And one of those automation pieces you can do, which is a great example that I always typically talk about whenever a customer comes to me and says, when we're looking at FortiSwitches, you talk about automation, what's one key thing that we would want to do from an automation standpoint? And one of that is you can have that when a device fails, an indicator of compromise check. This could be a user's laptop. If it happens in one part of or one location of the fabric, the whole fabric can be configured to react automatically. And you could do things like quarantine that endpoint at an access level. So that could be if that device was connected to a FortiSwitch, the FortiSwitch will actually put that device into a quarantine VLAN, or you could do it from an endpoint level. So if that device had FortiClient installed, we could not only have the FortiSwitch put it into a quarantine VLAN, but we could also tell FortiClient to quarantine it locally itself. And all of this is done within the security fabric. So tying the switch into the security fabric gives you more points to do automation from and more points to actually collect data from for the automation piece. Now, another really good benefit is network access control through FortiOS. And here you can automatically discover devices and apply access policies to that device. There's no license required for this. All the functionality is built into FortiOS now. There are default policies as well that you can go in and have a look and customize and play around with. And this allows for really fast scalability. So you can quickly enable NAC on the switches and on the switch ports, and then your NAC policies define how your devices actually connect to the network, depending on what they are. So one example of this is if your customer has all of their IP telephones that are, let's say, a Cisco brand, just for example, you could have a network access policy that says, if you detect a device that's coming from Cisco and the operating system matches what the operating system would be on the phone, then on that switch port on the switch, assign that to our voice VLAN. And what that means is as soon as someone plugs in that phone into a switch port, if that switch port is configured for NAC, the switch port will figure out what that device is and match it against a NAC policy. And if it identifies that it's that Cisco phone, it's running that particular operating system, and it is indeed a Cisco phone, it will then automatically assign it to your voice VLAN. So it allows you to do automated configuration of your switch ports. There is a lot of complexity around it. If you want to, you can go really particular and do specific MAC addresses or specific vendor IDs, or you can do like high level stuff like a vendor name and an operating system type. Finally, another key benefit is for Fortinet switches is Fortinet has a zero-touch deployment solution, regardless of what the deployment and management method that your customer would like to choose. So if you're deploying with a FortiGate, what you would typically do is ship the switches. If you've also got APs, ship the APs and then ship the FortiGate to the site. You plug it all in and connect the FortiGate to the internet. The FortiGate then sends a message to the deployment services in Fortinet's cloud services. It learns what type of management the devices should have and then connects itself directly to those management portals. And then the management solution then pushes its configuration to the FortiGate, to the FortiSwitches, and also the FortiAPs, and off you go. If you're deploying just FortiSwitches to be managed by the cloud, similar thing, you would ship the switches to site. The switches will then get an IP address from whatever device is currently handing out, DHCP for the network. It'll reach back to Fortinet's deployment services in the cloud, and then that service will tell the switch where it needs to be managed by. It could be FortiLAN cloud, for example. And then the switch will connect to FortiLAN cloud, pull its configuration, and then off you go. Management is done completely then through FortiLAN cloud. And then obviously in the management platforms, you can predefine all of the configuration for the device so that once it goes and connects to the management platform, it's pulling back a full configuration and then just, off it goes. It's fully configured. So let's now pivot to the current management solutions. So FortiSwitch has 4 management options. There is FortiGate managed, there's a cloud management through FortiLAN cloud, and there's also FortiSwitch Manager and standalone configuration mode. For FortiGate management option, your switch controller is integrated directly into the FortiGate, and this leverages FortiLink for secure integration of the LAN edge. As we spoke about before, there's no additional licensing cost for this. This functionality is built directly into FortiOS, so long as you've got a FortiGate, off you go. There is one limitation though, is the FortiSwitch, or the amount of devices that the FortiGate can manage is dictated by the type of model it is. So we'll see in this slide, I've got sort of 3 of the main small units, the 40F, the 60F, and the 100F. And we can see in the 40F that we're able to manage up to 8 FortiSwitches. And then on the 60F, we can do 16 or 24, depending on what firmware we're running. And then at the 100F, we've got 32 devices. So as you increase the size of your FortiGate, you have that ability to run and manage more FortiSwitches from the FortiGate, just because you're getting an increase of RAM and CPU power with the larger devices, so they're more capable. For large-scale deployments and multi-site management, Fortinet offers the Fabric Management Center, and this consists of a FortiManager that centrally manages your secure LAN edge, and it does this through the FortiGate at each site. And because FortiManager is centrally managing all of the network's FortiGates, and the FortiGate is in turn managing and controlling the FortiSwitches of the network, FortiManager can push configuration of the switches to the FortiGates. FortiManager also provides graphical user interface access to a lot of advanced features that aren't available on the graphical user interface on the FortiGate itself. And this sort of allows technical teams to easily configure advanced switching features without having to remember what the required CLI commands are. FortiManager is also a key part of the zero-touch deployment and provisioning for FortiGate managed deployments, and it allows IT teams to create a blueprint or sort of a configuration template, if you wish, to base all of deployments across a company's entire network. So what this does is it significantly reduces the amount of work required to expand an existing office's network or to expand the corporate network to new locations, because you're essentially allowing or utilizing a template, a base sort of image, and then using that on the new location, and that it significantly reduces the amount of configuration that you would have to do because all of the general settings are as part of that template. And then you just need to do, location-specific configuration for that new site. And in keeping with Fortinet's reduced licensing strategy, each switch does not need to be licensed in FortiManager. The FortiManager only counts the amount of FortiGates it's managing. It doesn't count the amount of FortiSwitches in its total device account. So if you've got a couple of sites, but like 100 FortiSwitches, that's fine. It'll only count how many FortiGates you've got. So if you've already set up for FortiManager, I would implore anyone to jump in and to utilize FortiManager as a way to manage their switching network as well. Now, the other option is FortiLAN Cloud, and this is the replacement to FortiSwitch Cloud, and it's a fully featured cloud management solution. It allows you to manage, monitor, and troubleshoot your customers' switching networks in the convenience of the FortiCloud portal, with the ability to separate each site into its own portal if you need, or you can also purchase a multi-tenancy feature if you require this for, let's say, MSSP use. And one great benefit of FortiLAN Cloud Management is FortiCare is actually included as part of the subscription, which covers both the support for FortiLAN Cloud, and it also covers hardware support on the devices that are managed by FortiLAN Cloud. This means that you don't need to also purchase FortiCare support on the hardware for FortiSwitches if they're managed by FortiLAN Cloud. It's included as part of your license for FortiLAN Cloud. So there is a potential saving for customers if they're looking to do cloud management through FortiLAN Cloud. There's another solution which is called FortiSwitch Manager. This is a relatively new solution. It allows you to cut through complexities of having non-FortiGate managed FortiSwitch deployments. Essentially, it's a VM image that you can have on-premise for the management of FortiSwitch products. Now, it's highly scalable. You can have a large amount of FortiSwitch units. Currently, it supports up to 2,500 FortiSwitches per FortiSwitch Manager, and it provides a user experience that is consistent with the FortiLink switch controller that is built into the FortiGate. So it essentially allows you, for customers that don't have a FortiGate, to have that management as if it was coming from a FortiGate. And the final management mode is the standalone mode. This is often mostly seen in non-FortiGate managed large-scale enterprise environments that contain a dedicated network management system. Standalone mode allows you to manage via the CLI, GUI, and also via API calls. It's a fully featured solution. You can do anything up to layer 3 routing, dynamic routing. All of that it's fully featured, except for one unfortunate pitfall, and that is this deployment type does not allow integration into the security fabric or integration of extending the security of the FortiGate to the switch ports. So this means that in standalone mode, you can't fully utilize the ability to do some of the automation pieces we were talking about earlier, like putting a device into a quarantine VLAN. It can be achieved, but it can't be achieved easily as part of that security fabric automation piece. So it's just a little bit of a gotcha. So now let's have a quick look at the current Fortinet wireless product range. And Fortinet currently has 3 ranges of products for FortiSwitch, and this consists of the Secure Access series, the Data Center series, and also the Ruggedized series. And we'll go into further details of these ranges shortly. Fortinet's switching range has all the modern feature sets that you would expect from enterprise switching solutions, with the added benefits of the ability to have that integration into the Fortinet security fabric. And some of these features include layer 3 routing capability with dynamic routing, single pane of glass management, analytics and monitoring. We've got NAC, LAN and network segmentation that we talked about a little bit earlier. We've also got automation piece that lets you do things like host quarantining. Again, we talked about that earlier. You've got the ability to do dynamic port policies directly on the switch, which is in a way somewhat similar to NAC, but it's a little bit different in its approach on how it does it and what it can actually configure. And then of course, you've got 24/7 support from Fortinet, and you've got the various levels of support that you can purchase. Like you can purchase advanced support, which gives you up to 4-hour SLAs for first responses. So FortiSwitch offers a broad offering of switches that can scale from small retail settings all the way up to data center. And there are 4 families of switches within that secure access series switch range. These are the 100, 200, the 400, and the 500 series. The 500 are the aggregation switches. So the 100 series is the entry-level layer 2 switch, and it has all the way from 8 to 48 port options, non-PoE and PoE capable models. They also come with 2 to 4 1 gig SFPs, also for the new F series. They've now been upgraded to 10 gig SFP plus uplink ports. So now we've got a variety of uplink depending on what you need. Just keep in mind that these 100 series models don't have any redundant power supply options, but we do have some fanless models within the 100 series. So for example, all of the 108 series, whether it's E or F, they're all fanless. And then we've also got a 24 port fanless non-PoE model. So if you have that requirement, we have access switches that can meet that. The 200 series, which is the next step up, is the mid-level access switch. It comes in 24 to 48 port options, both non-PoE and PoE capable, and it has 4 1 gig SFP uplink ports on all of the models, and there are redundant power supply models within the range, but not all of them are capable of having redundant power supply models. So I always say if you're looking for the redundant power supply option, just check the data sheet and check the specific model that you're looking at for the 200 series. The 400 series is the sort of enterprise switch. Again, comes in 24 to 48 PoE or non-PoE capable models. Here we jump up to 4 10 gig SFP plus uplink ports, and all models have built-in redundant power supply units. In this range, there's also a multi-gig model, which features 16 gigabit, 8 2.5 gigabit, and 2 5 gigabit Ethernet interfaces, along with 4 10 gig SFP plus uplink ports. So if you need that ability to have a multi-gig switch, there is an option within the 400 series. And then the final one is the aggregation or 500 series in the secure access. And this is a 24/48 port non-PoE or PoE model switch. Again, it has 4 10 gig SFP plus, but it also has 2 40 gig QSFP plus links. So that's where it sort of steps up and becomes a more of an aggregate switch because it's got those 2 40 gig QSFP plus uplink ports. And these models also have an additional hot swappable PSU unit. They only come with one hot swappable power supply module in the box, and you can optionally purchase a second one. Fortinet also offer a top-of-rack distribution switch suitable for data center deployments, or to augment, the Ethernet port density on some of Fortinet's larger FortiGate models. These switches are combined with Fortinet's LAN edge switch product line and can scale to fit the needs of most enterprise deployments with the same, stacking interoperability and FortiLink capability as the access level switches. There's 2 series within this. There's the 1000 and the 3000 series, and depending on what kind of links you need, we sort of scale up anything from 10 gigabit SFP or 10 gigabit Ethernet, all the way to, on the 3000 series, we've got one that's 32 100 gigabit interfaces with QSFP 28. So, there's quite a large range of devices within there. And the final range is that ruggedized series. These sort of support more challenging environments where dust or other problems may be present. Previously, there were 2 models within the ruggedized series range. Unfortunately, one of these was recently made in a sale, which means we only currently have 1 remaining model, which is the 112D PoE. And this is just an 8-port PoE capable switch. It also features 4 gigabit SFP uplink ports. Included in the box is a DIN rail bracket and 2 wall mount brackets, and this allows for sort of flexible mounting wherever you would need to put it. And as part of the ruggedized design, it is completely passively cooled. There's no fans on it. It's built to IP30 standards, and you have the ability to do a redundant power supply because it has 2 power inputs. And this is to ensure that you got that high level of resiliency. So if you need the ruggedized switch, we've got one within the line. And Fortinet also has a range of SFP modules and DAC cables to suit most needs. These sort of range from 1 gig SFP RJ45 transceivers all the way up to 100 gig QSFP 28 passive direct attached cables. The range is growing slowly, but it is growing. So they recently added a couple more options with QSFP 28 transceivers. And obviously, all of these transceivers have been, tested rigorously for compatibility, and all of that compatibility is documented in docs.fortinet.com. So it's all, visible for partners and customers. Anyone can go in and have a look and see, what the interoperability of the transceivers are to make sure that, they will work. Now we'll jump in and sort of have a look at some of the new features in FortiOS 7.2 for switching. As I said, I'm only going to cover a couple of the top features that I sort of see, and most customers have said to me that this is a feature that they would, utilize. And the first is the ability to pre-authorize wildcard serial numbers. And this allows a FortiGate to pre-authorize a FortiSwitch by specifying a wildcard serial number that represents the model of switch that you are going to be connecting and you want to be authorized. And when a physical FortiSwitch connects, the pre-configured serial number that you've done is replaced with the actual serial number of the FortiSwitch, and the FortiSwitch will automatically authorize itself and grab all of the pre-configuration that you've done and apply it to itself. And why it's important to have the wildcard is you might know ahead of time, okay, we're purchasing, let's say, a FortiSwitch 148F for this customer, but you might not know specifically what the serial number is. So you can have your technicians go in, just do a wildcard serial number for the 148F and do all the configuration for it. And then once the device actually, you get it and you ship it to site, you don't then have to re-go in and change that serial number. Because it's a wildcard, it will just match whenever that switch gets plugged in, and then off you go. There's also now a FortiSwitch clients page, which lists all the devices connected to the FortiSwitch units. Double-clicking on a row sort of displays the device info panel, which lists all of the NAC policies, the dynamic port policies that the particular device is matched. And then obviously, it provides a full detailed information about specifically, what the devices are that are connected, the device name, the port they're connected to, the VLAN they are assigned, what the host name is, the operating system, all the typical stuff that you would receive, with that integration with the FortiGate is all visible in this one page that's only looking at, the clients that are connected to your switches. And then if you hover over any of the devices, you can create a firewall device address specifically for what you're looking at. You can then also, go in and quarantine the host if you wanted to. So there's a lot of valuable information that you can do within here. There's now an enhanced FortiSwitch ports and diagnostics tool page. and this is greatly improved over versions previously, and now reports the fan status, power supply unit status, and also gives you an overview of what the port health are. So this really helps technicians and customers' IT teams go through and understand, exactly what's happening with their switches. And clicking the new legend button in the general pane displays health thresholds pane. So this helps list the thresholds for, what is good, what's fair, and what's poor in terms of like general health, and allows someone from a high level, that doesn't have a really technical background to understand, is this good, is this bad, is this not bad, and it lets them start easily find out where to start troubleshooting. And also that clients page that we saw previously, and I talked about in the last slide, it's also visible here in the diagnostics and tool pane, and it will only show the clients that are connected to the specific switch that you're obviously doing the diagnostics on. So you can really sort of go down on a per switch level and see, what's exactly connected, who's exactly connected. And also the number of managed FortiSwitch units has increased from 16 to 24 on some of the low-end FortiGate models. So this is the 60F, and some of the 80F models have had that increase, which is quite nice. Hopefully we might see this across more devices, but I'm not sure. It's just a nice, freebie. And then finally, administrators can now use the FortiSwitch profile to control whether a user can log in with the console port on a FortiSwitch. And this allows you to have an increased level of physical security if you require it. So if you're in an office, let's say, that's quite small and the equipment is mounted up on the wall, maybe in this very small office, and there's a lot of people, coming in and out, and you want to make sure that you've got a high level of physical security, then you can go ahead and you can disable that CLI or console port on the FortiSwitch to help increase that level of physical security. That's a new feature. Hopefully we might see some people adopting this if it's required. Otherwise, the default option is just to leave the console port enabled. So this is something that you would need to opt in to disable it. So that sort of covers off the new features as part of 7.2. We should see hopefully some more features coming with later releases of 7.2, because we are seeing new features with almost every version of 7.2 released. But they're just the sort of ones that talking with customers would be, most beneficial to them if they upgraded to 7.2. Now I want to jump in and sort of show you guys where to get some further details about the FortiSwitches. So for further FortiSwitch material, such as solution briefs and marketing campaigns, there's also a lot of other useful information in there, like ordering guides, which are really good because they break down, the key things that you would want to look for in a switch and which switch model would be suitable for those. And all that information can be found in the Fortinet partner portal. You can also, if you just do a quick Google of, FortiSwitch datasheet, at the end of the datasheet, there's a whole bunch of SKUs that sort of list out all of the different models and services that they provide. Fortinet also has an interactive product comparison page that allows you to specify sort of certain parameters that you would require, such as you could go in and specify the amount of ports that you require, or maybe you don't need PoE, so you would say PoE not required, and it will sort of break down the list of all of Fortinet switching products to only the amount of products, or only the products that are suitable for the requirements that you have, and it's all interactive. I highly suggest people jump on there and have a look. It's a really good resource that's recently in the past, I think it's the past 6 months, has been sort of bolstered up and become quite a useful tool from Fortinet. In terms of technical training and workshops, Fortinet has an SD branch workshop. This is a hands-on 4-hour technical workshop about Fortinet's SD branch solution. It dives into not only the FortiSwitch, but it also looks at the FortiAP and FortiLink. And it teaches participants, the benefits of doing that integration of the devices using FortiLink, and how to enable common security policies across a network, extending that security of the FortiGate to the LAN edge. So it is actually quite a useful workshop. I've done it in the past. I loved it. So I highly encourage anyone that utilizes FortiSwitches and wants a little bit more hands-on experience, jump in and sign up for that workshop. Fortinet also has an NSE 6 FortiSwitch certification for those wanting to get a greater understanding of how to deploy, manage, and troubleshoot FortiSwitches. And if you're interested in further information, please reach out to myself, or you can reach out to your local Fortinet representative. I'm more than happy to give you guys, further information around exactly, what these workshops and NSE training would look like. So now we'll jump into a quick Q&A. Rio, if you're there, do you mind shooting out some questions that we've seen come through?
Yep, for sure. Okay, so Q&A time. What we'll probably do is we'll answer some questions, maybe 5 to 6 questions, because I don't want to take up too much of everyone's time. But first question would be, what licenses do you need to purchase to manage FortiSwitch via FortiLAN Cloud?
So to manage the FortiSwitch via FortiLAN Cloud, it is a sorry, it's not a per FortiSwitch license. They're purchased in blocks of licenses. So you get a license for 10 devices, 20 devices, 30 devices. There is a free tier that allows for a limited management of 3 switches for customers that would like to sort of trial the solution. So any customer that's got a FortiCloud account can jump into FortiLAN and do a limited management of 3 devices. Otherwise, yeah, they come in packs specific for the model. So there's a specific pack for 100 series, specific pack for 200, 500, 400, and so forth. So if you guys want a breakdown of what that would be, please reach out to the sales team and they can give you a nice little breakdown of what the tiers are for FortiLAN cloud licensing.
Sweet. What is the maximum number of VLAN on the FortiSwitches?
Great question. I'm not entirely sure of the maximum on the top of my head. I believe it would be 4,096. But let me clarify that. I'll check through the data sheets and I'll get back to the gentleman that asked that question.
What are the current lead times on FortiSwitches?
Great question. I get this all the time. Lead time sort of depends on the specific FortiSwitch model that you're looking for. Some switches we're seeing a healthy supply of. Some like the newer 100F series switches, we're still seeing a little bit of a delay in getting stock. Seeing up to 6 months on some select models. So it really depends on specifically what model you're looking for. We're trying hard now at the moment to sort of come up with alternative models that we can get in a more timely manner for customers that are experiencing delays in getting a specific model. So just reach out to the sales team and they can give you a good estimate of when we're expecting to see specific stock come in.
Now this is another question. Would you have a small business range switches like 8/16 ports?
Yep, so Fortinet has a range of 8-port switches. So that is the 100 series, so 108F and 108E, and then we've got non-PoE, PoE, and full PoE versions of those switches. Unfortunately, there is no range of 16 ports at the moment. The next jump up would be the 24-port switches. And we would typically look at selling the 100 series switches into small business locations.
Sweet. Is there a license that can increase the amount of FortiSwitches a FortiGate can control?
Unfortunately not. The limitation is there because of the amount of RAM and processing power that the FortiGates have. So unfortunately, there's no license that can increase it when you're managing by a FortiGate. You just need to sort of purchase a FortiGate that is appropriate for the amount of switches that you're looking to deploy in your network.
Sweet, and we'll probably answer just one more. Are they planning to upgrade the 200 series to SFP+?
Great question. Unfortunately, I'm not aware. I haven't heard anything from any of the Fortinet team about making that upgrade, but I will put the question forward to them and I'll see what their response is and I'll get back to you.
Awesome, thanks for that, Kieran. There is still quite a lot of questions, but what will happen is after this session, I'll be passing forth these questions to Kieran, and he'll be able to reach directly to each person that asked the question. Easy. Back to you, Kieran.
Perfect. Thanks, Ria. And thanks everyone for the questions. And as Ria said, we'll get back to you with any outstanding questions. So solution expansion. Obviously, with the integration of Security Fabric, Fortinet has a lot of products that work within the Security Fabric, and the key solution, that we've talked about today, which is, FortiSwitch, which has that integration to the Security Fabric. That's not the end of the solution. There are a lot of additional products that Fortinet makes that can complement, the FortiSwitch as part of the Security Fabric. In this slide, I've simply tried to put sort of the key ones that we would typically see, like the integration with FortiClient or FortiNAC. FortiNAC's a good one. It's the fully featured NAC solution, but there's many more. So FortiMonitor, FortiManager. So the conversation doesn't have to stop at the switch. The Security Fabric allows the conversation to continue and to create a solution that works with each key point that the customer has. Other than that, that's all we have for today's presentation. If anyone would like any further information or discuss how Fortinet's wired solution could work for one of your customers, please reach out to one of the team members here at Wavelink. Thank you again from myself. I will hand it back to Rigo to end the session.